Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She said 4 words before heading out. Don't wait up tonight. Then she kissed my cheek like I was her brother, grabbed her bag, and left. No perfume, no makeup, just lip gloss and that casual black dress she only wore when she needed to look like she wasn't trying. I watched the door click shut. She thought I didn't know, but I knew. It wasn't the dress. Wasn't even the way she'd been texting with her screen tilted away. It was the shift, subtle, but surgical, like I'd become something she used to love. A song she skipped before the second chorus. I didn't follow her, didn't ask questions, didn't text her to be safe. I just sat back, picked up my drink, and stared at the dark window. And for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like strategy. Let me rewind. 2 weeks ago, I caught the first real clue. Her phone lit up on the counter. A name I didn't recognize, Liam, Yoga, followed by a preview. I missed that laugh. Tonight? She flipped the phone over before I could read more. Said it was spam, then smiled, like I was stupid enough to believe that spam messages flirt. I didn't say a word. Not then, because I already knew I was done talking. There's a moment every man hits when the begging dies, and something colder replaces it. Not revenge, not rage, just clarity. She thought she was building a safety net, me. The man who paid the mortgage, filled the tank, remembered her mom's birthday. The man who folded her laundry and acted like just tired was a full excuse for 6 months of rejection. But here's the thing. When you starve someone emotionally long enough, they don't scream. They vanish. And that night, I started disappearing. No announcements. No fights. Just quiet calculations. She wanted freedom. She was going to get it. But not the kind she pictured. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. Didn't clean up her wine glass from the night before. Didn't remind her about her early Zoom call. And when she asked what was wrong, I just said, nothing. Because that's what she'd turned this marriage into, nothing. Later that day, I moved $3,000 into a private account she didn't know existed. Changed my emergency contact at work. Booked a consultation with a lawyer. She still thought I was clueless. She had no idea I'd already started collecting every receipt, every bank statement, every phone bill. I wasn't planning an argument. I was planning an exit. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just final. And that's the hook she missed. It's never the yelling you should fear. It's the man who smiles quietly and never looks back. The next morning, she hummed in the kitchen like nothing happened. Like she hadn't slipped out at 9:45 p.m. wearing a dress that wasn't for me. She poured herself coffee, left the mug I usually used untouched. A small thing, but deliberate. I sat across from her, eating eggs I'd made for myself. Quiet. Controlled. She scrolled through her phone, laughing under her breath. Probably texting him. Probably reliving whatever night she thought I hadn't noticed. She didn't know I'd already started the shift. My calendar at work? Cleared. My desk drawer? Empty. My shared Google Drive? Backed up, then deleted. I wasn't just creating distance. I was creating escape velocity. Later that day, I stopped by the gym. Not the one near our house. One across town. New faces, no shared connections. The kind of place you go when you're rebuilding something from the ground up. My trainer asked if I was training for something. Yeah, I said. Freedom. That night, I got home around 9:30. She was already on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, glass of wine untouched. She didn't look up when I walked in. Hey, she said casually, you're home late. I nodded. Didn't offer an explanation. Didn't ask how her day was. She studied me, like she was waiting for the old version of me to reappear. The one who'd beg for attention, ask where she'd been, offer to talk it out. But that version was gone. I took a shower, locked the door for the first time in years. While the water hit my back, I stared at the tile and smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I was finally clean. Later that week, I started packing. Not bags. Data. I printed bank statements. Exported text logs. Took photos of receipts she thought I'd never look at. She was sloppy. Arrogant. Too convinced of her own invincibility to hide things properly. By Thursday, I had everything I needed. The following night, she came home late. Smelled like whiskey and department store cologne. She slipped off her heels, tiptoed upstairs, tried to sneak into bed without waking me. I didn't move. Didn't ask. Didn't flinch. She thought my silence meant submission. She didn't realize it was preparation. On Saturday morning, she wore my college sweatshirt, something she hadn't done in months. Tried to recreate a version of us that no longer existed. Made pancakes. Played our old playlist. Said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should go somewhere next weekend." I looked up from my phone and said, "I'll be busy." She blinked. Waited. I didn't elaborate. Because that was the point. No explanation. No promises. Just cold distance. The kind that makes someone realize they've lost you. Not because you left, but because they stopped matching. And that's what really terrifies them. Sunday morning, she made bacon. The smell filled the kitchen like nostalgia. Warm, familiar, calculated. She wore soft makeup. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to say, "Look, I'm still her. The woman I used to love." I sat down. Ate in silence. No compliments. No stories from the week. She watched me carefully, waiting for something. A joke. A sigh. A flicker of affection. She got nothing. She started talking about work, a potential vacation, maybe doing a staycation together. I nodded once. Didn't look up. Didn't answer. After breakfast, she followed me upstairs, hovered in the doorway of our bedroom like she was trying to find the right time to ask the wrong question. Instead, she said something safe. "We haven't done anything just us in a while." I folded my shirt. Placed it in a drawer she didn't know I had cleaned out 2 days ago. She lingered a second too long, waiting for the version of me she used to control. The one who'd drop everything to fix what she broke. But I kept folding. That afternoon, I drove across town. Quiet neighborhood. Realtor met me at the door. I walked through a small apartment with good light and bad cell reception. Perfect. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my brother. This wasn't a breakup. It was an extraction. Back home, she was scrolling on the couch again. Pretending to text a coworker, probably. Laughing too loudly at nothing. I walked past her. No kiss. No hello. She tried again later that night. "I was thinking," she said, "we should do a date night this week." I glanced up from my laptop. "This week's tight." She looked surprised. Confused. I was supposed to jump at that offer. She was offering connection. She thought it was bait. But I wasn't fishing anymore. That night, I lay in bed beside her, the space between us more crowded than ever. She shifted, leaned closer. Her hand grazed my arm, light and rehearsed. I didn't move. She pulled back. That's when I knew the shift had landed. She was starting to feel it. The thing she used to weaponize, distance, was now working against her. On Monday, I met with a lawyer. We didn't talk about war. We talked about strategy. I asked about clean exits, discrete timelines, asset protection. He nodded. Said I wasn't the first. "You're not angry," he said. "You're methodical." Exactly. I didn't want revenge. I wanted removal. Back at home, she was suddenly more interested in my schedule, my whereabouts, my tone. Too late. She was looking at the fire, not realizing the house was already ash. This wasn't a warning. This was a countdown. She thought she still had time. But I wasn't standing still. I was 5 steps ahead. And she wouldn't see the ending until she walked straight into it. By Thursday, she was unraveling, quietly. The woman who used to weaponize silence now didn't know how to survive it. She asked where I was going after work. I said I had plans. She waited for the follow-up, the explanation. There wasn't one. She asked who with. I just smiled and walked out the door. I didn't lie. I didn't explain. I gave her nothing. The beauty of silence is how loud it becomes when someone's not used to hearing it. That night, I sat at a bar I hadn't been to in years. Drank a whiskey alone. Let my phone buzz once, her name, and didn't look. This was the part most men fail. The part where they slip. Where they try to soften the edges. Reassure her. Break the very wall they've been building. But I wasn't most men. By the weekend, she was trying harder than I'd seen in months. Woke up early. Made breakfast. Played that old playlist she used to love. She even wore that soft t-shirt she used to sleep in when things were good. The one that made her look like home. But it didn't hit the same. Because I wasn't in love with a memory anymore. I ate breakfast. Thanked her. And went straight to the garage. She followed me there. Unusual for her. Hovered near the door like she was working up to something. "I feel like we've been off," she finally said carefully. I nodded. Said nothing. She waited. Fidgeted. Picked at her sleeve like a teenager waiting for a parent's reaction. "I just want to fix whatever this is," she added. I looked at her. Not cruelly. Not cold. Just through her. Whatever this is already broke, I said. Her face dropped. Not with rage. With fear. Not because I raised my voice. But because I didn't. That night, she cried in the shower. Tried to muffle it under the water, but I heard it. The hiccuped breathing. The collapse. I didn't go to her. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, calmly counting backward from 100. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. Because she wasn't mourning us. She was mourning her control. Sunday morning, she left early. Said she needed air. No explanation. I let her go. When she returned, she looked shaken. Like the outside world hadn't offered the distraction she'd hoped for. She hovered near the front door a long time, like she didn't know how to walk back into her own house. I didn't ask where she went. Didn't ask if she was okay. I just walked past her, grabbed my keys, and said I had errands to run. She didn't follow. She just stood there, staring at the space I just walked through. And for the first time, I think she realized. I wasn't the one disappearing anymore. She was the one being left behind. By week 3, she started waking up before me. She never used to. Mornings were mine. Coffee, emails, silence. Now I'd find her already dressed, hair done, makeup light but intentional. Not for me. For someone else. Or for the reflection she was trying to rebuild. She tried to control the narrative. Left her phone screen up, like I was supposed to notice how boring her texts were. Started using words like us, again, plans, memories, jokes from 5 years ago. Too late. That version of me, the man who ached to fix things, was gone. She hovered near me constantly. Not close enough to touch. Just close enough to be seen. Like proximity could undo the distance. Like being in the same room could still mean something. She started cooking more. I didn't stop her. I ate what she made. I said thank you. But I never once said, this is good. Never once said, I missed this. Because I hadn't. One night, she knocked on the bathroom door while I was shaving. Said she wanted to talk. I let her speak. She talked about how disconnected she felt. How maybe we'd both been off. How stress changes people. And how she just needed time to recalibrate. I didn't interrupt. I just looked at her in the mirror, towel over my shoulder, razor still in hand. When she finished, she waited, like the silence would force me to respond. I simply said, thanks for telling me. Then I walked past her. No apology. No warmth. She stared after me like she didn't recognize who she was talking to anymore. That was intentional. I wasn't trying to win her back. I was letting her watch the slow demolition of the image she built, of a man who would wait forever. 2 days later, she broke. Not in tears. Not in screaming. She just snapped. Left dinner on the counter, untouched. Took her purse and walked out without a word. It was a move she used before. A power play. Only this time, I didn't text. Didn't ask where she was. Didn't leave the porch light on. I watched a movie. Alone. Slept soundly. Woke up early and went for a run. When I came back, she was in the kitchen, still in last night's clothes, eyes puffy. I didn't say a word. She tried. Said she got overwhelmed. Said she needed a drive to clear her head. I nodded. Hope it helped. Then I walked upstairs. Later, I heard her crying again. Not loud. Not performative. Just broken. She had spent so long crafting a version of herself that didn't need me. Now, she was starting to realize. I had finally learned to live without her. And that wasn't temporary. It was permanent. She tried to reset the energy. Started leaving little notes again. Good luck today, on a sticky note by my keys. Miss you. On the bathroom mirror in dry erase marker. It was too late for soft gestures. She had already burned the part of me that would have melted at that. Now, I read them like reminders of who she used to be, and how far she'd fallen from it. I didn't react. I didn't throw them away. I left them where they were, like clutter. By now, I had quietly transferred most of our shared finances into a separate account. Not out of spite, just clarity. There would be no begging for my resources. No debates. No splits down the middle. She noticed eventually. Hey, the card didn't work for the grocery order. I didn't look up. I closed that account. She blinked. What? Why? I stayed calm. Didn't need it anymore. That was it. No drama. No shouting. But I could see her spiral starting. Because money was always her invisible leash. The lifestyle, the stability, the safety net she pretended to hate but quietly relied on. Now it was gone. and she was still standing in my kitchen, pretending she didn't feel the floor shifting beneath her. I changed all the passwords that week. Streaming services, smart home access, bank apps, subscriptions. She came home and couldn't open the garage. I was upstairs when I heard the garage door button click. 3 times, then nothing. She walked in through the side door, her eyes sharp. "You locked me out of the garage?" I nodded. "Yeah. Reorganized the system. Needed a reset." She stood there for a long time, searching my face for something familiar. She didn't find it. That night, I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. Not on purpose, not as a message. I simply didn't need to wear it anymore. She noticed, didn't say a word, but she stared at the empty space on my hand like it had screamed at her. She started calling her sister more. Late night whispering in the guest room. I heard her say things like, "I don't know what happened, and he's not the same." No, I wasn't. She just hadn't realized the price of turning love into a transaction, of replacing warmth with power. Now she was watching the balance shift, and she hated it. She tried once more to pull me back. Made my favorite dinner. Wore the perfume I bought her years ago. Played that old movie we used to quote lines from. I sat beside her on the couch. Ate the food. Watched the movie. Said nothing. And when it ended, I stood up, thanked her, and went to bed. She stayed there, alone, surrounded by every tool she used to own me, and finally realized none of it worked anymore. By week 4, the script flipped completely. She started asking real questions, not the fake ones wrapped in ego. Is something wrong? Why are you being distant? These were stripped down, quiet, real, like, did I lose you? I didn't answer, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because there was nothing left to answer. That version of me, the one she could reach with a soft voice and mascara tears, didn't exist anymore. She wasn't asking questions to understand. She was asking to confirm what she already knew. I was gone. Physically, I was still in the house, still sleeping in the same bed, still showing up to work, hitting the gym, doing my routines. But emotionally, I was operating from a different place now. Detached, unavailable, cold in the exact way she had once been warm. I caught her crying in the laundry room one night. Door half shut. She didn't know I could hear. She wasn't sobbing, just unraveling, like someone who finally realized the exit wasn't down the hall. It was already behind her, locked, and I had the key. The next day, she posted a photo of us. An old one, from a vacation 5 years back. Caption said, "Every relationship goes through seasons. The strong ones survive them." She wanted sympathy. Eyeballs. A crafted image of someone who tried. Someone fighting for love. But I didn't like the post. Didn't comment. Didn't share. I just took a screenshot, for legal purposes, and moved on. That same afternoon, her best friend messaged me. Said she hoped everything was okay. Said she could tell we were in a rough patch. I didn't respond. I didn't know anyone a storyline. Because this wasn't a rough patch. It was the slow expiration of a bond that had already flatlined. She just didn't realize the monitor had gone silent. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. She brought up therapy. Said she booked a session. Just one. Asked if I'd be willing to join her. I looked her in the eyes. Said, that won't be necessary. Her face fell, not in shock, but recognition. She had used therapy before as a reset button. To make me feel seen, temporarily. To throw the word work into a dying equation and hope it carried weight. Not this time. This time, I wasn't looking for repair. I was moving toward release. She tried to joke about it the next morning. Tried to lighten the mood. Playful touches. That fake laugh she used when she was nervous. I didn't flinch, because nothing she could say now mattered. Not the jokes. Not the tears. Not the nostalgia. The version of me who cared was gone. And she was finally standing in the wreckage of the version of herself that destroyed him. By now, she had stopped trying to fix it. Not because she'd given up, but because she finally understood it was beyond repair. This wasn't a fight. It wasn't a phase. It was a conclusion. I came home from work one evening to find the house spotless. Dinner on the table. Candle lit. That playlist again, low volume, soft vocals. She was in a dress I hadn't seen in years. I didn't ask why. I sat. Ate. Thanked her. No compliments. No curiosity. She kept looking at me across the table like I was someone she almost remembered but couldn't quite reach. I let her sit in the silence. Afterward, she followed me upstairs. Didn't speak. Just watch me take off my watch, fold my shirt, place it in the drawer. And then, finally, she said it. I miss you. Not a whisper. Not a weapon. Just a truth. But it landed with no impact. Like throwing a rock into a frozen lake and watching it skid across the surface. I nodded. I know. Then I closed the drawer and walked past her. She stood there, stunned. Maybe not because I didn't say it back, but because I didn't pause. Didn't hesitate. Didn't even look sad. She was expecting conflict. Some kind of heat. What she got was indifference. The next few days, she moved differently. Softer. Quieter. Like she was trying not to make noise in a house she didn't own anymore. She started staying out later. Gym, errands, catching up with friends. Old tactics. Distraction disguised as distance. I didn't ask where she went. She stopped checking her reflection as much. Started wearing the same hoodie for 3 days in a row. Forgot to clean her coffee mug. I noticed, but I didn't react. She was unraveling, slowly. And for the first time, it had nothing to do with me. She was collapsing under the weight of her own choices. The freedom she fought so hard for now felt like isolation. The power she once flexed now felt hollow. Because you can't manipulate silence. You can't gaslight detachment. And you sure as hell can't control a man who's already gone. One night, she asked if we could take a walk. Said it might help to talk somewhere neutral. I said I had plans. Didn't tell her what. Didn't tell her with who. Because that was the truth. She no longer got access to the parts of me that weren't hers to begin with. And deep down, she knew it. She was starting to understand that the scariest version of a man isn't the one who yells, isn't the one who begs, isn't even the one who walks out the door. It's the one who stays, but no longer cares. I didn't plan the exact day I would leave. It wasn't on a calendar, circled in red. There was no dramatic countdown. No suitcase by the door. Just small, deliberate acts. Each one pushing me closer to the exit. And by the time she realized it, I was already gone. Even though I still had a key. Even though my shoes still sat by the door. I started spending more time out of the house. Long walks, late-night drives, solo dinners at restaurants we used to love. She noticed. Asked questions. I answered, politely. But vaguely. Detached, like a stranger at a hotel reception. She was desperate for a shift, but had no idea how far I had drifted. She couldn't touch me now. Couldn't guilt me, seduce me, or manipulate me. That connection she thought was elastic had finally snapped. And I didn't mourn it. I prepared for it. I hired a second lawyer. Quietly. Strategically. This time, not just for advice. For action. I made copies of everything. Deeds, policies, emails. Moved sentimental items to storage. Not everything. Just the things that reminded me I once had a heart in this house. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even my brother. Because this wasn't about validation. It wasn't about being right. It was about finally being free. That weekend, she tried to initiate intimacy. Soft lighting. That robe she hadn't worn in over a year. Her voice low. Her touch gentle. But I had already closed that chapter. Not out of spite. Out of self-respect. I stepped back. Told her I wasn't in the mood. And for the first time, she didn't argue. She just stood there, frozen. Like a scene glitching in a movie. That was when I knew she understood. Not fully. Not yet. But enough. She began asking if I wanted to talk. I didn't. Because when someone shows you, repeatedly, that they don't value connection, you don't rebuild the bridge. You burn the blueprint. She sat on the edge of our bed one night, staring at her hands, whispering something to herself. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a script. I didn't ask. I opened a drawer, grabbed my gym bag, and walked out. I wasn't leaving yet, but I was letting her feel it. The air was different now. Thinner. Heavier. She moved through the house like a guest, waiting for someone to check her out. But the truth is, I'd already left emotionally. The rest was logistics. And she could feel it, in every corner of our now silent home. Because when a man stops fighting for the relationship, that's not when it dies. That's when it's already dead. The morning I left, the house was silent. No storm. No slam of doors. Just stillness. She was asleep when I zipped the last duffel bag closed. Or pretending to be. Either way, I didn't check. I didn't need to see her face. That wasn't the closure I was after. I walked through the house once, room by room. Not for sentiment, but for certainty. Everything important to me had already been removed. Everything else was noise. In the kitchen, I left the garage remote on the counter. She'd figure it out. The hardest part wasn't leaving. It was realizing how easy it was. Because when someone chips away at your soul long enough, the foundation doesn't collapse in rage. It crumbles in silence. And once it's gone, there's no rebuild. Outside, the air was crisp, clean. I breathed deeper than I had in months. My car started with one turn of the key. No hesitation. Just like me. I didn't leave a note. Didn't send a text. Didn't say goodbye. Why would I? She hadn't earned closure. She had earned distance. Let her stare at the empty driveway and figure it out herself. Let her check her phone, expecting a message that would never come. Let her friends ask what happened, and let her fumble for an explanation that doesn't make her the villain, but leaves her exposed anyway. I drove to the new place. Small, quiet, minimal. The kind of space where peace echoed louder than conversation. The first night, I made dinner for one. No distractions. No small talk. Just music and breath and calm. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel hollow. I felt done. She tried to contact me later that week. A short message, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. A photo came next. Her holding a coffee mug I'd once bought her. Captioned, "Still here." I deleted it. Because she didn't understand. This wasn't space. This was aftermath. A month later, I got an envelope forwarded from the old address. A letter, handwritten, full of apologies, reflections, and vague declarations about working on herself. I read it once, folded it, tossed it in the trash. She thought I left to teach her a lesson, but I didn't leave to punish her. I left because she was no longer worth the fight. And the real twist? By the time she finally wanted me back, I no longer remembered the version of her I had once fought to keep. She wanted reconciliation, but I had already found something better. Silence, that belonged to me. And in that silence, I rebuilt everything she broke. Without her, what would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.